our policy making and our policy making interventions on the generation side need a serious reboot, and that's what we are doing. We are looking at the least cost violations that projects like Bhasha would have to pay for through the PSDP, and that part of the burden cannot be put on to the consumer for them to be able to finance that through the tariff, which has already become so unaffordable. So if Bhasha needs to come onto the system, then out of the so-called 7 billion or 6 billion US dollars worth of a cost, not more than 2 billion can be put on to the consumers. The rest of the cost has to be taken by the public sector development program. So the evacuation cost of Bhasha, if it's going to cost us $3 billion to put in the transmission system alone, just because Bhasha is a hydel project doesn't make sense. Bhasha, yes, as a water storage project makes sense. Pakistan much requires that. Climate change issues much require that we invest into Bhasha. But the electricity part of Bhasha has to be, the burden has to be taken over by PSDP, or we don't put in electricity generators. And the electric consumer should not be burdened with Bhasha. Because when Bhasha comes in, at the cost at which it is, if the entire burden is put on you consumers, it will break the backbone of whatever is left of our power sector and the tariff structure itself. Even other projects, do we need a 300 megawatt imported coal power plant in the Gwadar? Does it make sense? No. So there are serious corrections that we are going to the federal cabinet with in the near future after having made all these assessments. And we are making these assessments in a very realistic and practical and pragmatic manner. So this is the generation part of it. IPPs I'm very grateful to the IPPs for being kind enough and understanding enough to cooperate with us to try to revise the contract conditions that they have been working on in the past many years. Upfront tariffs, cost plus tariffs in the past, not acceptable anymore. I strongly believe that the government of Pakistan should not be the single purchaser of power in the future. Power needs to be generated and bought by the private sector amongst themselves. There needs to be an exchange of power, the CTBCM, competitive markets that we want to introduce, that we've been wanting to do for the past 25 years now as a country and have not been able to do so. I'd like to congratulate Pakistan that this afternoon, the Cabinet Committee on Energy would be hopefully approving the formation of the first independent system market operator that would then enable these transactions to start happening over the next 6 to 12 months, inshallah. And that will be a very big breakthrough. So everybody will buy and everybody will produce and everybody will buy whatever energy they require in the future at the best terms and conditions, and that's where competition will kick in. Competition will bring down the prices of power in the future. CPPA can't do that. The government of Pakistan is not supposed to be doing that. We cannot do that. So we'll create an environment where market operations on the power generation side and the buying side would start. The other very important part of reforms is the distribution companies. We have to put a stop to the political economy that is revolving around distribution companies. 595 billion rupees are budgeted every year for distribution companies of the loss in recovery and power theft that they do. Unbelievable, unacceptable. It's not sustainable. It's going to happen. Am I going to put the discourse in order? No, I can't. I'm going to put in place good professional board members in place, and those boards would be responsible. In the next 5 years, inshallah, by the end of next year, 3 distribution companies would have been privatized. 2 distribution companies which give you a loss of over 150 billion rupees a year would have been privatized through the concession agreement model. This is serious reform. Bringing in distribution companies, boards and board of members, एक सिफारिश भी नहीं ली पिछले 6 महीने में किसी एक्सीएन के ट्रांसफ़र की, एससी के ट्रांसफ़र. Everybody on the political side is maybe unhappy with us. All the MNAs and the MPs, because they're not being provided proper customer care services by the existing XCNs and SCs. They're not to blame, so they want their own SC to be able to resolve the issues of the people. Our complaint systems don't work. 118 does not work. That will have to work. So the customer care is going to be, we are going to focus on that, and the discos will have to be privatized, and we are going to make sure that in the next 5 years, if we have the support of the whole of the government,